I never imagined the man I called my husband would humiliate me the way he did that day. It was supposed to be a quiet dinner. Family, close friends, a few coworkers of his. I spent all morning cooking, setting the table, making sure everything was perfect. For 25 years, I'd been the kind of wife who believed love meant patience, loyalty, and forgiveness. But that night, all of that ended. When the doorbell rang, I wiped my hands on my apron and went to answer it, expecting Mark to be carrying wine or maybe some flowers. But what he was holding was far worse. The hand of another woman. A much younger one, and she was visibly pregnant. Everyone in the room froze. He didn't hesitate. "Caroline," he said, smug as ever. "This is Lily, and she's carrying our baby." I swear, I stopped breathing. I could feel every pair of eyes burning into me, waiting to see if I'd break. Mark smiled like he'd just announced something noble. Then he said it. The words that'll haunt me forever. "You can't even give me a child, Caroline. Maybe it's time I stopped pretending this marriage was enough." The room went dead silent. My chest felt like it was being crushed, but I didn't cry. Not in front of them. I just looked at him. Calm, quiet, and full of the kind of pain that doesn't need words. Because what he didn't know was that I already knew the truth. And when he found out what I'd been keeping from him, the same shame he tried to bury me with, was going to swallow him whole. My name is Caroline Reed, and I just turned 50 this spring. I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood in Ohio, where every house looks the same. White fences, trimmed lawns, and smiles that never tell the full story. For years, I thought I had a picture-perfect life, a loving husband, a steady home, a future built on loyalty and trust. Mark and I met when I was 24. Back then, he was charming. One of those men who could walk into a room and make everyone laugh. He had ambition, a sharp suit, and a smile that made promises I was too young to question. I fell for him fast, and for a while, I thought he fell for me too. We built a life together. He climbed the corporate ladder while I built our home, handled the bills, the laundry, the dinners, the birthdays, all the invisible things a wife does that no one ever thanks her for. I believed in us. Even when we couldn't have children, I still believed love was enough. The infertility hit us hard. I remember sitting in that cold clinic room, the doctor saying the words "low chances," and Mark just staring at the wall. He barely spoke to me the whole drive home. From that day, something in our marriage started to crack. Not all at once, but little by little, like a slow leak no one bothers to fix. I tried to fill the silence with patience. I tried to love him through the distance. But Mark, he changed. The man who used to bring me flowers on Fridays started coming home late, smelling like expensive perfume and guilt. And I kept pretending I didn't notice. Then there's Lily, the woman who showed up at my doorstep like a storm I never saw coming. She's 28, works as a marketing assistant at Mark's firm. Pretty, in that kind of effortless way youth gives you. She had that fake sweetness in her smile when she first said, "Hi, Mrs. Reed," but I could see it. The pride, the little spark in her eyes that said she thought she'd won something. And maybe she did. For a while. She had Mark's attention, his gifts, his promises. But what she didn't know was that Mark never gives without expecting control in return. He's the kind of man who'll make you feel special one day and worthless the next, all just to see how much you'll take. Then there's Megan, my best friend since high school. She's the loud, tell-it-like-it-is kind of woman who doesn't sugarcoat anything. When she first noticed the distance between me and Mark, she said, "Girl, he's hiding something. You better wake up before it's too late." I laughed it off back then. I thought she was being dramatic. Turns out, she was just right. And then there's Richard, Mark's boss, the man who's been like family to us for years. He's one of those old-school gentlemen who values loyalty and decency. He was there at our wedding. He was there when we lost our first pregnancy. And funny enough, he'd also been watching Mark's behavior for months, quietly putting the pieces together. I didn't know it then, but Richard would end up playing a bigger role in my story than I could have imagined. You see, on the outside, my life looked calm, ordinary, even enviable, but inside that big house on Maple Lane, there was a woman breaking in silence. A woman who kept smiling through dinners, laughter, and conversations she didn't belong in anymore. And when Mark brought that woman, that pregnant woman, into our home, every ounce of pain I'd swallowed for years boiled to the surface, because I wasn't just some forgotten wife anymore. I was a woman who'd been lied to, disrespected, and used, and I was done pretending. What Mark didn't realize was that I wasn't as naive as he thought. While he was busy building his double life, I was paying attention. I knew about the hotel bills, the secret credit card, the gifts he bought that never made it home. I even knew about the business trips that started showing up on weekends. But what he didn't know was that I also had something that could ruin him, something legal, something signed and sealed years ago, back when he still trusted me. Everyone in our little world thought Caroline Reed was a fragile woman who'd break if the truth ever hit her too hard. But they were wrong. I'd just been waiting for the moment he'd hand me the match that would burn his own lies down. And the night he walked through that door with Lily on his arm, that was the night I finally decided I wasn't going to cry anymore. I was going to win. You know, when people cheat, they always think they're smarter than the one they're fooling. They think they can hide the lies with perfume, excuses, and late-night work calls. But the truth always leaks out. Slow, quiet, and deadly. For me, the sign started small. Too small at first to make a scene over. Mark used to come home every evening at 6:30 sharp. Dinner, a drink, the news, then bed. But one night turned into 2, then 3. Late meeting, he said. Then traffic. Then I stopped to help a coworker. Always so calm, so confident, like he'd rehearsed the lines. He started dressing different too. New cologne I'd never seen before. Expensive shirts that didn't fit the man I used to know. He even got a gym membership. Said he was trying to stay young. That's when I knew something was wrong. Not because he cared about fitness, but because he suddenly cared about appearance. I remember one evening when he left his phone on the counter while he showered. It buzzed twice. A text from someone saved as L. My gut twisted. I opened it. Just one message. I can still taste your kiss. I swear, my hands went numb. My world tilted, but I didn't scream. I didn't even cry. I just stared at that message until it burned into my memory. When he came out of the bathroom, towel around his neck, I asked, "Who's L?" He froze, just for a second, then smiled that fake, calm smile and said, "Linda, from accounting. She's helping me with a client project." I nodded, pretending to believe him, but deep down I knew that message wasn't about any project. After that, I started watching him closer. I checked the credit card statements. There were dinners at places we never went, jewelry stores, and hotel receipts. He'd changed his phone password, started taking calls outside, sometimes whispering, but he underestimated me. I wasn't the same soft, forgiving wife he married. I'd learned to listen to tone, to silence, to everything unsaid. One night, I followed him. He said he had a client dinner downtown, but my gut said otherwise. I waited 15 minutes after he left, grabbed my coat, and drove out. Parked across from the restaurant he mentioned. His car wasn't there, so I waited. An hour later, I saw it. His car pulling into a little boutique hotel off Jefferson Street. And out stepped Mark, laughing, hand in hand with a woman in a red coat. Her hair was long and blonde. Even from across the street, I could see the way she looked at him, like he was her whole world. I didn't cry that night either. I just sat there in my car, watching until the lights in their room went out. That's when something inside me flipped. I realized I'd spent my whole life protecting a man who wouldn't even protect my dignity. From that moment, I started planning. I stopped arguing. I stopped asking. I smiled when he lied, kissed him when he came home late, acted like the perfect wife because I wanted him comfortable. The more secure he felt, the sloppier he'd get. And, oh, he did. He started bringing her things, little trinkets hidden in his coat pocket. Once I found a baby rattle in his briefcase. Another time, a doctor's ultrasound slip he tried to throw away. That's when I realized how deep this betrayal went. She wasn't just another woman. She was part of a plan. His way of replacing me entirely. He didn't see me as a wife anymore. He saw me as an inconvenience. A reminder of the family he never got, the life he never wanted to fix. The night before he brought her home, yes, brought her to my house. He looked at me and said, "Hentramet, Caroline, maybe we should think about selling this place. It's too big for just us." That us sounded empty, hollow, like he was already somewhere else. But here's the thing about betrayal. It makes you sharper. Every lie he told was another clue. Every whisper, every late-night call, every missing hour. It was all building toward something. I didn't know exactly what he was planning, but I could feel it. The distance, the cruelty, the contempt in his eyes. He wanted me broken before he walked away. So I let him think I was breaking. I let him believe I was still that soft, naive woman holding on to hope. But deep down, I was documenting everything. Every receipt, every message, every lie. Because when the time came, I wasn't just going to confront him. I was going to expose him. He thought he was untouchable. But I was about to remind him that the woman he tried to destroy was the same one who built his entire world from the ground up. And when he finally brought her into my home, standing there with that proud, shameless grin, I knew the game was over. Not for me. For him. That night, the night he brought her into my home, was supposed to be his victory lap. But it became the beginning of his downfall. He called a family dinner. I didn't know who was coming, or so he thought. But I had already prepared myself. I set the table, made his favorite dishes, even wore the blue dress he once said made me look decent for my age. He thought I was being obedient. I was actually getting ready for war. At exactly 7, the doorbell rang. I wiped my hands, took a deep breath and opened the door, and there they were. Mark. And Lily. Her red dress hugged that baby bump like she was showing off a trophy. His arm was around her, and that same smug smirk sat on his face. "Caroline," he said, like he was doing me a favor. "I wanted to do this properly. I think it's time you meet Lily, and my child." He emphasized the word my, letting it hang in the air like poison. I felt everyone's eyes on me, the dinner guests, his co-workers, a couple of neighbors who'd come thinking it was a friendly evening. They looked frozen, unsure whether to pity me or avoid eye contact. Lily smiled, sweet and rehearsed. "Hi, Mrs. Reed, I've heard so much about you." I smiled back, that same smile I'd practiced in the mirror, the one that looked calm but carried a storm underneath. "Oh, I'm sure you have." Then Mark cleared his throat. "I know this might be hard for you, Caroline," he started, "but we're adults. Life changes. Sometimes you have to accept reality." "Reality?" I asked softly, setting down my wineglass. "You mean the reality where my husband has been cheating on me with his secretary and decided to parade her in my home?" A nervous laugh went around the table. He tried to recover. "Now, honey, let's not be dramatic." "Dramatic?" I cut in. "No, Mark. Dramatic is showing up with your pregnant mistress and acting like you're the victim." He glared at me, the charm gone from his eyes. You couldn't give me what I wanted, Caroline. I deserve to be a father. There it was, the dagger. He said it loud enough for everyone to hear. My hands trembled slightly, but my voice stayed calm. You're right, I said quietly. You do deserve to be a father. If only you knew who the father really is. That made him freeze. The smirk cracked. Lily's smile faded. The room went silent. What the hell are you talking about? He snapped. I leaned back in my chair, folded my hands, and said, Oh, come on, Mark. You didn't think I'd find out, did you? You didn't think I'd go through your emails, your financial records, those secret doctor visits you paid for? Lily's face went pale. Mark's eyes darted toward her. What is she talking about? He demanded. I laughed. Not out of joy, but out of disbelief. You really thought you could lie forever, didn't you? You thought you could humiliate me, ruin me, replace me. But you forgot one thing. I don't lose easily. Then I reached into the drawer beside the table and pulled out a folder. Inside were paternity test results, ones I'd gotten from a private investigator weeks before this night. I placed the papers on the table and slid them toward him. Why don't you read this, Mark? He hesitated, but curiosity won. He opened the folder, scanned the first line, and his face turned ghost white. The child, I said softly, finishing his silence. It's not yours. The air went heavy. You could hear Lily gasp. Mark blinked like he couldn't process what he was reading. You're lying, he stammered. Am I? I said, tilting my head. Go ahead, check the date, the signatures. That's your DNA test. The baby's father is someone else, your coworker. The one you fired last month. Mark slammed the folder shut, his jaw tight. Lily started crying, mumbling something about how she didn't mean for this to happen. But the damage was already done. I stood up slowly and said, You humiliated me, Mark. You made me feel small. But tonight, you get to feel what it's like to be on the other side of betrayal. He looked at me, speechless, broken, humiliated in front of everyone. And for once I didn't feel pity. I felt free. Then I added the final blow. Oh, and one more thing. I already spoke to Richard. The house, the accounts, everything you think you own, they're in my name now. You signed it years ago when you needed me to co-sign that loan. Remember that? His face went blank. You wouldn't... I already did, I said. So when you leave tonight, don't forget your coat. That's all you'll be taking. I walked past him, slow and steady, like the weight of years had finally lifted. Behind me, Lily sobbed, Mark cursed under his breath, and the guests sat frozen in shock. That night, the man who thought he could destroy me ended up destroying himself, and I didn't even have to raise my voice. After everyone left that night, the house was quiet, too quiet, the kind of silence that feels thick, heavy, almost alive. The dining room was still a mess, plates half full, spilled wine, that folder still sitting in the middle of the table like a tombstone marking the end of something. Mark had stormed out after the confrontation, shouting things I didn't even process. Lily ran after him, still crying, her heels clicking against the floor as the front door slammed. Then there was just me, standing in the ruins of my own life. For a moment, I just stared at the table, at the empty chair where Mark used to sit every night. The same spot where we'd shared dinners, anniversaries, and silent arguments. I should have felt broken. I should have felt small. But I didn't. I felt light. 25 years of holding my breath, walking on eggshells, begging for crumbs of love. And suddenly, I could breathe again. The humiliation, the betrayal, the loneliness. It all burned out that night. What was left wasn't weakness. It was clarity. I cleaned up the mess slowly, one plate at a time. I folded the tablecloth, threw away the wine glasses, and took that folder, the one with the DNA results, and tucked it into a drawer. Not because I needed it anymore, but because it was proof. Proof that I'd survived. For the next few weeks, the house felt different. Quieter, but peaceful. The kind of peace that comes after a storm that's torn through everything fake and left only the truth behind. Mark tried calling at first. Left voicemails, said he wanted to talk, to explain. But what could he possibly explain? The lies? The cruelty? The way he tried to destroy my dignity to justify his guilt? I ignored every call. Then came the guilt trip messages. You're being unreasonable. I made a mistake. We can fix this. I deleted them all. Because fixing something that was built on lies isn't fixing. It's pretending. And I was done pretending. One afternoon, I saw his car parked down the street. He didn't come up to the door, just sat there, maybe waiting for me to come out. I didn't. I stood by the curtain, watching as he sat there for almost 20 minutes before driving away. That was the last time I saw him in person. As for Lily, I heard through a mutual acquaintance that she left town. Apparently, once Mark's money dried up and his reputation took a hit at work, thanks to his office romance going public, she realized she'd hitched her wagon to the wrong man. I wasn't surprised. People like her don't stick around when the drama stops paying. There were nights when I'd sit on the porch, sipping tea, thinking about how everything had changed. Sometimes I'd miss the old version of Mark, the man I fell in love with, the one who used to hold my hand on long drives, who'd call me his sunshine. But then I'd remind myself, that man never really existed. He was a story I told myself because it was easier than facing the truth. You know, betrayal doesn't always destroy you. Sometimes it rebuilds you. It strips you down to who you really are, and forces you to stand on your own 2 feet again. One morning I got a call from Richard, Mark's former boss. He said, "Caroline, I heard what happened. If you ever need anything, you call me." He even offered to connect me with an attorney to finalize everything. I thanked him, but I told him I didn't need anyone to fight my battles anymore. That part of my life was over. Instead, I started doing small things for myself, things I hadn't done in years. I signed up for a pottery class. I redecorated the house, painted the walls, replaced the furniture, gave the place a new life. Every brush stroke, every rearranged room felt like taking my heart back piece by piece. And then, one evening, as I was cleaning out Mark's old office, I found an old photo of us. We were in our 20s, smiling, arms wrapped around each other. I stared at it for a long time. Then I placed it in a box and said out loud, "Thank you for teaching me what I'll never settle for again." That was the closure I didn't even know I needed. Now, months later, I sleep peacefully. I laugh again. I've learned to enjoy silence, not the silence of fear or distance, but the kind that comes when your soul is finally calm. Mark's gone, his reputation ruined, his lies exposed. And me? I'm still here, still standing, stronger, freer, and finally honest with myself. People always say, time heals everything. But I don't think that's true. Time doesn't heal. Truth does. Facing it, accepting it, and walking through the pain until you come out the other side, that's what heals you. And that's what I did. Because I may have lost a husband, but I found something better. Myself. You know, people often ask me if I regret anything. if I'd go back and change how things turned out. And my answer? No, not a single thing. Because every heartbreak, every tear, every sleepless night I spent wondering what I did wrong, it all led me here, to a place where I finally know my worth. For half my life, I thought love meant sacrifice, that being a good wife meant swallowing pain and smiling through disrespect. I thought keeping peace was more important than keeping self-respect. But the truth is, love that demands you to disappear isn't love, it's control. I used to wake up every morning thinking about what Mark wanted, what he liked for breakfast, what shirt he'd need ironed, what mood he'd be in when he walked through the door. My life revolved around his happiness. I stopped asking what I wanted. Now I wake up thinking about me. I drink my coffee on the porch. I read. I listen to music again. The kind I used to play before I forgot who I was trying to please. And every time I catch my reflection in the mirror, I see someone I haven't seen in decades. Someone alive. You know what's funny? The day I stopped begging to be loved was the day I started feeling love again. Real love. The kind that doesn't come from someone else, but from within. Mark tried to break me because he thought my worth depended on him. But here's the bitter truth. Some people will only love you as long as you make them feel powerful. The moment you stop feeding their ego, they turn on you. That's not love. That's dependency wrapped in manipulation. For years, I let his words define me. You're too emotional. You're not enough. You'll never be a mother. Those words became my prison. But now, they're just echoes. I don't carry them anymore. I've learned that forgiveness isn't for them. It's for you. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting or letting someone back into your life. It means you stop allowing their mistakes to live rent-free in your heart. It means saying, you hurt me, but you don't own me anymore. The night I exposed Mark, I didn't do it out of revenge. I did it out of justice. Not just for me, but for every woman who's ever been made to feel small, less than, or replaceable. Because we aren't. Every wrinkle on my face, every gray strand of hair, they tell a story of survival. Of lessons learned the hard way. Of pain turned into power. I may be 50, but I feel stronger than I ever did at 30. Because strength doesn't come from age. It comes from endurance. And here's another truth I've learned. When people show you who they are, believe them the first time. Don't romanticize their red flags. Don't excuse their disrespect. Because the second you start making excuses for someone's bad behavior, you start losing yourself. Mark lost everything that night. His pride, his status, his illusion of control. But I gained something he'll never have. Peace. Real, quiet, genuine peace. I see women every day who stay in toxic relationships because they're afraid of being alone. I used to be one of them. But being alone isn't the worst thing. Staying somewhere you're unloved, that's worse. Silence in an empty house is easier than silence beside someone who makes you feel invisible. Now, when I sit outside in the evenings and watch the sun go down, I smile. Because I survived. I outlasted the pain, the humiliation, and the lies. And if there's one lesson I want anyone listening to take from my story, it's this. Don't ever hand someone the pen to write your worth. You get to write that story, not them. If someone disrespects you, lies to you, or makes you feel like you're hard to love, walk away. You owe no one your silence, your patience, or your broken pieces. You can rebuild. You can start again. I did. So, to every woman sitting in her car, crying because she feels like she's losing herself, listen to me. You're not weak. You're not broken. You're not too late. You're just at the part of your story where you learn who you really are. And sometimes the most powerful thing you'll ever do is stand up, look someone dead in the eye and say, "You don't get to hurt me anymore." That's the bitter truth, and it's also the most beautiful one.